Hello everybody, it's Warhammer here with another bit of Total War Warhammer 2 quick match gameplay. This time around it is a match of Dark Elf on Argwylon on the map Deadwood. And it's gonna be a bit of a tense one. So my opponent here, Shelf, actually a viewer of the channel, and we were kind of just discussing matchups, and I finally decided, you know, let's try something that I don't run too often. I'm not too much of a fan of Dark Elves. And let's go try that. Let's try some Dark Elf on Wood Elf, or Argwylon in this case, action. And going into this with my build, for my Lord, I'm running a Supreme Sorcerer of Shadows. I didn't want to bring Bolt Thrower. Now, one of the things I usually do when I do Dark Elves and Wood Elves is bring Bolt Throwers. Because they give you a decent counter to Weight Watchers, they give you some good counterplay to poke at your opponent from outside their range, and force your opponent to come to you. But in this match, because Deadwood is kind of a, well, it's full of trees, and so camping with the artillery beast is not that effective. And I figured, you know, my opponent could sneak through here, he could sneak through there. We want to avoid that, so what we're going to do is we're going to rush him. And so for my Lord, Supreme Sorcerer of Shadows, she's got Melkoth's Miasma. I was hoping to be able to snare cavalry. One of the things I was really worried about, actually, was later Riders with Agman tips. And go figure, that's what Shelf brought here. So they're going to be a bit tough to deal with, because I have nothing to catch them or shoot them. We've got Penumbral Pendulum to mess up formations if my opponent decides to go with a more sort of defensive box, and then a Enfeebling Foe to hopefully help in whatever engagements might go down. Opal Amulet, of course, to protect her, Arcane Conduit, and Arnzerpol's Black Horror, because that's just a fun spell that I enjoy using. And it's actually a pretty powerful spell. It can do a lot of damage to a lot of different units. Generally, it'll melt infantry pretty well. I'm not entirely sure how well it does against armor, but against Wood Elves, you don't have to worry too much about that, and it can do a lot of damage. Now for a front line, it's simply a whole bunch of Dread Spears, so 4 units of them, as well as a unit of the Hellbroni. They are backed by 2 units of Sister Slaughter. These ladies are pretty nasty in this match. Obviously, they have basically no armor, because they're running around almost butt naked. But they do have Bronze Shields, which is nice. Definitely a bit of protection. They've got some physical resist, 20%. And they are very good at mincing through Wood Elf infantry and melee, because they've got such high melee defense, poison, and pretty good melee attack, so, and weapon strength for that matter. On the flanks, though, that's where a real strike force is. 2 units of Cold Ones Riders on either flank, alongside 2 Dark Riders with shields. One of these on each flank, chevron up a whole bunch. So I was hoping that in a fight against Wild Riders, they'd perform a little better with some more chevrons. And of course, the shields are there to help them soak up missile fire on the way in. And regardless, I'm kind of pushing in immediately. I didn't really wait very much. And Shelf kind of traps me here with an ambush. So for his Vanguard here, he's just got a bunch of Dryads, as well as a single unit of Wild Riders. These guys are the unshielded variant. A Branch Wraith, who is pretty well kitted out. He's got Melkoth's Miasma. He's got the Penumbral Pendulum, Earthblood, Awakening of the Wood. The other Trickster's Shard has amazing synergy with Dryads, makes them do 22% more damage because it debuffs enemy magic resistance. Called the Woods, improving melee attack, and Smoke and Mirrors, so extra speed. There's also a unit of War Dancers with Azure Spears over here, as well as more Dryads who are kind of sitting back in reserve, perhaps, ready to reinforce. As we mentioned, there are some Glade Riders with Agman tips over there, as well as a Glade Lord, the male variant, up here in the sky. He does have Deadly Onslaught, Foe Seeker, as well as Helm of Discord, and another stack of Call of the Woods. So potentially, if the Branch Wraith isn't covering everything, this guy can cover a bit as well. Though it doesn't look like he's got the banner item that the Glade Lord can get. That boosts your melee attack by another 5, so I think that's a pretty valuable item to have, but regardless, probably didn't have the points for it, and that's all right. Now, over here, there is another unit of Wild Riders ready to protect these Glade Riders, as well as a second unit of War Dancers Azure Spears. So these ladies, of course, are very dangerous to most of my cav, and you can see here, I'm trying to get my Dark Riders in, force these Glade Riders off, and it's just not working. Unfortunately, over here, the Cold Ones get trapped by the Wild Riders, so huge misplay on my part. I should have played much more cautiously and just scouted with the Dark Riders, but now these guys are trapped, and now, obviously, Cold One Knights will dumpster Wild Riders in a normal fight. They'll dumpster Dryads, but not like this. Not when they're mobbed, not when they're surrounded. Now we're in a bad spot. So I kind of gave up on these guys, was trying to force them out of there, but it just wasn't working. Now I'm pivoting the infantry around, looking to intercept. Well, over here, we engage on the Wild Riders with our Dark Riders. You can see debuff going down, Enfeebling Foe nuking these guys' stats into the ground. Cold One Riders coming out of the darkness, the Cold One Knights that is, and they're going to be plowing into these Wild Riders, doing a lot of damage, and really putting them in the gutter. Unfortunately, though, there are these War Dancers with Azure Spears. These ladies, of course, absolutely brutal, can tear through my Cold One Knights, and I gotta be very wary of them in this fight. In the meantime, in the pits, well, things are kind of degenerating into a brawl. Dryads, obviously, they'll beat down. They're a very good unit in this match because they'll beat down the lower end Dark Elf infantry. Maybe not Hellbroni, but definitely the Starred Spears and Bleak Swords will go down like 9 pins. But against Sisters of Slaughter, these ladies are really my trick or ace in the hole here, and I'm going to be relying on them to win me this fight, because otherwise, well, the Dread Spears ain't going to do it. They're not going to cut the mustard. In the meantime, on the peripheries, you can see Dark Riders here trying to pursue the Glade Riders, keep them away. The Wild Riders are routed, which is very, very nice. And over here, these Wild Riders actually get caught out. They were trying to get in on my duplicate with my Supreme Sorcerers, but the Cold One Knights get an intercept, and they start pounding these guys down into the dust, and they're doing quite a lot of work. In the meantime, Argwylon's Black Heart does come piling through here, disintegrating some of these Dryads, doing a lot of work. We can see the Supreme Sorcerers only got about 16 kills there, but still, very impressive stuff. You can see these Dryads just completely melted. And now we're able to collapse on them. And unfortunately, these Dryads are not in position, and a little bit of a misplay here on my opponent's part. These Dryads over here, as well as the War Dancers, were still hanging back, doing nothing. So those were reserves that could have potentially been very crucial here in this pit fight, and they're just not present. Now, in the meantime, these Dryads over here are getting overwhelmed. You can see this pocket getting dumpstered. The Branch Wraith knocked flat on the ground right now. He will stand up to fight, or she will stand up to fight. But fortunately, we were able to mop these Dryads. Of course, the Dryads holding pretty well, because Dryads do have immunity psychology, so holding up very nicely to the fear. Awakening of the Wood there, doing some damage, especially to Sisters. And Helm of Discord, of course, just a brutal spell. Very, very frustrating to play against. And you can see the Glade Lord here, up to 85 kills. He's had an absolute field day. So definitely had a pretty good time there. In the meantime, Branch Wraith, though, bogged down. The Sisters tearing up these War Dancers. So the Sisters of Slaughter, of course, will just be able to give these ladies whiplash. They're going to be able to take them down really, really nicely. And this fight, really not where the War Dancers want to be in life. In the meantime, these Wild Riders removed from play. The Glade Riders sitting out here. They mopped up some of my Dark Riders somewhere, I'm pretty sure, but I'm not sure where those Dark Riders are. You can see balance of power here actually very much out of my favor, and I do believe that's largely because of the Glade Lord here. He's popped Deadly Onslaught. He's very, very tanky. My opponent does still have some healthy units. Obviously, he has these War Dancers that I forgot about. He does have these Dryads coming into the fray who are slowing out with the Dark Riders. But I think the key here is that his Lord is relatively healthy and can do a lot of damage still. So at this stage of the game, I wasn't sure how much my opponent had left. And kind of desperation was setting in because my Knights were starting to get mauled. And one of the big problems is that if my Cold One Knights, I basically threw one unit of them away at the beginning of the game, which was a disaster. And if I lose these Cold One Knights, I'm not really going to have a counter to this dragon anymore. And you can see he's up to 124 kills. He's been dumpstering everything. Sister of Slaughter there got butchered. The Dark Riders here do manage to chase down these War Dancers with Azrai Spears, which is going to be really nice. Just buckling them, chasing them down. Sister of Slaughter, of course, helping there. And these Wild Riders getting destroyed with Melkoth's Miasma coming in as well to really soften them up even more. But our Knights are basically goners. These guys rampaging, and when they're rampaging, they're basically dead. So, just saying. Obviously, this does boost their stats, which is nice. And this was kind of a clutch situation for me. We managed to hit this bad boy with an Enfeebling Foe, which is, of course, nuking his stats down completely. And he is trying to extricate himself. He's trying to run away. But sensing an opportunity here against the Glade Lord, with the fact that not all of my units had routed, I'm simply going to swing my Sorcerers over and start pursuing him because I want to prevent him from coming back. If he comes back, granted the Branch Wraith is routed, so the Branch Wraith probably won't come back to heal him. This guy could still shoot all of his ammo. He's still got 20 rounds. That's enough to kill my Sorceress. That's enough to be disastrous. I can't afford that. So I'm coming back, running this Glade Lord down. You can see we're just pursuing him as best we can. We've been even pulling some Dark Riders over here, just leaving this pocket to just grind down. These Dryads, the Branch Wraith, they're not going to be able to win out. Hagbane Tips are starting to run out of ammo, which is very good for me. And unfortunately, these Water Dancers were completely forgotten. And in this situation where almost everything here is dead, that could have been a game changer, but unfortunately, Shelves simply forgot about them, and so that's a little unfortunate there. But regardless, we were able to catch the Glade Lord here. We're keeping him pinned on the ground. I was making sure to try to micro some of my Dark Riders and some of my Cold Ones ahead of the Glade Lord to prevent him from escaping. You can see we're just running him into the ground. Once the leadership drops below 50, I do believe that's when shatters happen. And you can see it does happen there finally. And we're actually going to be able to kill this guy off. We're going to be able to kill this Glade Lord completely. And that's going to be the game changer. You can see Balance of Power swinging decisively in my favor as we ran this guy down. That was really a game-changing snare there. In the meantime, you can see Sisters are basically gone. There's very little left of my army at this point. It's basically all over for them. But with the loss of their enemy Lord, that is going to be enough to shift the balance of power, and it is going to be GG for the Dark Elves. It was a really tense and kind of frenetic fight from start to finish, so really well played to Shelf. I think the only real misplay there was simply forgetting those War Dancers and the Dryads early on, and I think in the long run, that might have been the game changer there. because obviously unfortunately getting trapped with the Glade Lord, that was a little bit of a mistake, but I definitely think of just getting those drives in the War Dancers could have been a huge game changer. As for the builds and all that sort of stuff, well, to be honest, I also had a pretty bad misplay at the beginning when I basically threw away Unit of Cold One Knights for nothing. That's just bad scouting, and that's, once again, I went into the match, I knew it was a forest map, I didn't see most of my opponent's army, I only saw his Flyers and his Glade Riders. They're Wood Elves. You should be anticipating some sort of ambush. You should be anticipating some sort of sneaky shenanigans. I just played like a scrub and didn't expect it. So the Cold One Knights, a unit of these guys, I don't even know which unit, because surprisingly, all of them came back to do some damage. But one of these Cold One Knights got dumpstered very badly early on, and almost lost me like 1,000 gold worth of troops right off the bat. So that was definitely a little unfortunate. But they did come back in the late game to sort of scrape things together. But I think the build largely worked. The map, I think, was a little non-conducive to it, just because it was very dense. And I think this was a problem for both of us, really, is that the map was kind of being so much dense terrain. It's kind of hard to see your troops sometimes, hard to micro effectively. And I think that did hurt this build a little bit. But besides that, I was pretty pleased. The only thing I'd consider is, on a more open map, I'd really try to get bolt throwers in there, probably instead of like 2 of these Dark Riders. I forget exactly how much they cost, but I could probably trade 2 of these for like a maybe downgrade like the Hellebronite to a normal spear, and I'd be able to cram in 2 bolt throwers, and that would be a huge boon, I think, on a more open map. But yeah, otherwise, cavalry it's solid against the Wood Elves. If you're able to swarm them, obviously Cold One Knights will dumpster units like Wild Riders. Dark Riders can't fight Wild Riders, but you can run down the cheaper infantry with them. The main threat is, of course, that you can't catch Glade Riders, and obviously it is a bit micro-intensive. As for Shell's build, I actually didn't think it was bad. Obviously just forgetting the War Dancer is a bit of a problem there. As for the rest of it, though, definitely as far as a rush build against the Dark Elves goes, I don't think it's bad. That said, I do think rushing Dark Elves is not necessarily your best bet. It's very likely that a Dark Elf player is going to have at least a few Sisters of Slaughter, and some cavalry in the mix, or perhaps some bolt throwers or units like that. And in that situation, the Glade Riders aren't really going to cut it, I think, to kill off the Sisters. And most of this formation, with the singular exception of the exception of the Wild Riders, most of this, even with the Branch Wraith support and the fact that magic damage bypasses the physical resist on the Sisters are going to be able to munch through your Dryads pretty effectively. And so that's, I think, the main problem, especially once Murderous Mastery procs. They're just very, very strong. And the Sister of Slaughter basically single-handedly carried that infantry mob fight throughout that game. So I just think that is worth noting, or something you want to be aware of if you're trying to rush with the Wood Elves. Now, obviously, you can cycle charge with Wild Riders and all that, but given that it only takes a few Sisters of Slaughter to mess you up, and you can't really shut down enemy Cold One Knight, and you can't really get past like Cold One Knights, for example, with a unit like Wild Riders reliably. I just do think it's a little bit risky, and I think perhaps a little more shooting would be advised. Maybe some Swift Shiver Shards. Not entirely sure how you'd rework the build. Unit is a little tight on cash, no doubt. Not sure what you'd cut. Maybe like a single unit of War Dancers. Get some. I don't know if 1 unit of Swift Shivers would be enough, because then you're free. Also opening up the possibility of Cold One Knights wrecking you. But regardless, it is something I would keep in mind. Just that these rush builds, while they can be strong against a campier Dark Elf player, if your opponent does bring Sisters, especially, this can go badly. But regardless, well played to Shelf. Definitely was a pleasant and fun game, and really intense. Like, came down to the wire. I wasn't sure who was going to win right up until the bitter end. And unfortunately, these War Dancers could have made a game changer, but alas, it was not to be. So I do hope you guys enjoyed the video. Hope you found it entertaining. Hope you had fun watching. If you did, be sure to leave a like, subscribe, and share. If you have any comments, any criticism, any questions, don't hesitate to post them down below, and I will do my very best to respond as soon as I can. I do thank you all for watching, and I will see you all in the next one. Bye for now.